وَيُنذِرْ, and it came to warn. Now these are all purposes for which the book must remain intact and straight, because the messengers are not going to come to warn. Usually Indhar and Tabshir are the jobs of messengers, but this is the last messenger, so the job of this messenger must be done by his book. So the book will have to stay straight until the end of times. All other books went through deviation, and what was always a safety measure that Allah gave? The next messenger, the next messenger, the next messenger. Now it's the last messenger. There's no more messenger. So this book has to stay in place. And especially, now Allah mentions, particularly one nation that has a lot to do with the trials of the end of times. وَيُنذِرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا. And it may come to warn those, so that it may warn those who said Allah had taken a son. Look at the complementary relationship. When Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the previous surah, the beginning, He told us about Bani Israel, the Jews, and the beginning of Kahf tells us about the Christians. And we warn about those who said Allah has taken a son. Something about the worst things that will ever happen on the face of this earth have to do with something the Christians did. What is it? We'll find out. We'll see in this surah. مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ. They have no idea about it whatsoever. That statement they say, قَوْلِهِمْ يعني, بِقَوْلِهِمْ, بِإِيمَانِهِمْ. They have no knowledge whatsoever. It's fluff. Ma is a refutation, yes? They got none, and there's an added, no, let me be clear if I wasn't refuting you enough. It's not مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ عِلْمًا or ilmun. It's min ilm. Ma ilmun bihim. Ma ilmun min ilmin. Not any whatsoever. And they will try to fluff their theology with these crazy allegories and going around in circles and all this stuff, and it's going to sound like they really know what they're talking about, and Allah just calls it out for what it is. They have no knowledge whatsoever. وَلَا لِآبَائِهِمْ. Nor was this kind of knowledge in any possession of their ancestry. They didn't have it either. كَبُرَتْ كَلِمَةً تَخْرُجُ مِنْ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ. How huge, what an enormity, what a big deal is the words are that come out of their mouths. The word that comes out of their mouth. Allah didn't even say kalam here. Kalam is speech. Kalima is a word. It's a word. Well, a single word. The single word of shirk that comes out of their mouth is enormous. إِن يَقُولُونَ إِلَّا كَذِبًا. They say nothing but a lie. Now this is the ayah where we're gonna see how this is all connected. فَلَعَلَّكَ. Then there's a possibility. There's a possibility. Usually la'alla is used in the meaning of hopefully, maybe, or so that, right? Here, particularly, it's being used in the meaning of maybe. There's a possibility. It seems like there are some and then fa is used, fa sababiyya. The Christians are up to, they have no knowledge, and as a result, maybe you, ka, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, bakhi'un nafsak. Bakha'a in Arabic is to cause somebody else to grieve or to be enraged. To agitate someone else with sadness and anger, to the point where they explode, they die. In nowadays you could an older person, somebody, a heart patient or something like that, and you get them really, really angry, and they might even get a heart attack as a result of you getting them really angry. So this is a form of killing someone without a weapon. Bakha'a is a form of killing someone without using a weapon. You agitate someone to death. You grieve someone to death. Sometimes people say that somebody's a family member died and the other member died soon after, out of grief. They just ate themselves away on the inside. Allah says, perhaps you are going to kill out of grief. Kill who? Nafsak, yourself. The Prophet is so worried, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because in his wisdom, he sees the consequences of Christian faith. He sees where this is leading, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And the words are ala atharihim. Athar is literally footsteps. Footsteps. When you see footsteps, what do you know? Someone's been there. Traces, remains, consequences, when something is left in the wake of destruction. If you see destroyed homes, a storm has been through here. When you see a giant hole in the ground, an explosion happened here. Something happened here. When you see a building burned down, there was a fire here. Allah is saying you might kill yourself possibly out of grief over when you see the consequences, the wake of the destruction Christians are going to leave behind, what their faith is going to leave behind. Let's talk about that now, inshallah. The Christian faith is one of accepting the Trinity. And the Trinity, one of the fundamental premises of the Trinity is God has a son. And they've been trying to work some way of making sense of that for their people for a very, very long time. The Christianity and the Christian world entered into the Dark Ages. And the place where they went for education was the Muslim world. They went to Andalusia, not this one. They went to Andalusia, and they went to study, and they went to learn. And actually, a lot of their books were burnt, and whatever remained was with the Muslims, and they translated it into Arabic, so they studied a lot of Greek philosophy in the Arabic language and translated it back to their own languages. They didn't even have it anymore. We were studying it to tear it apart. And they came to us to study. And by the way, it's the other way around now. Right? We come to the Western world to study. They sent the smartest sons they had. The smartest sons they had to land of the Muslim, risking that these guys, when they study there, what might happen? They might become Muslim and they'll never come back and be assets to our civilization. And they lost a lot of their best. A lot of their sons became, well, we gained them, Islam gained them, and they benefited themselves. But a good number of them studied and eventually held on to their faith and went back and created what we call the Renaissance. What we call the French Enlightenment, the Enlightenment era. They brought back what they learned from the Muslims, and they started talking about science. Who's already been talking about science by this time? The Muslims have. But they start talking about science, reasoning. And when they start talking about science and reasoning, what's an obvious clash? Christian faith, the dominant faith of Europe. It's a direct clash with science and reason. And obviously, because Christianity was in a position of power, it tried to crush this conversation. They burnt down libraries, hung people in public. They did all kinds of crazy things to suppress scientific reform and philosophical reform in Europe. As a result, the Western people, the Christian people, originally Christian people, developed a hatred for Christianity. And actually, by extension, for religion. Secularism was born. Secularism suggested that it is religion that hates science. It hates reason. It hates rationale. It hates intellectual freedom. So we should get away. If you want to keep religion, fine, keep it in your personal life. It should never have power again. Because religion is for the closed-minded. When a Westerner tells you religion is closed-minded, they're speaking from history. They're speaking from a very relevant history that they've experienced. Now that experience, that exposure, and that reaction to Christianity, it extended to all religions. And when you hate religion, then you know what happens? It's not just about a particular label, a particular name. Who cares about God? God's not going to build roads and highways. God's not going to build factories. Science is going to build factories. God's not going to create a world economy. Science is going to create an economy. God's not going to send angels to an army. We have to build cannons ourselves. We have to build guns ourselves. And science has helped us do that. We can create a better world. We can create a more advanced world. And God has nothing to do with it. When we've been talking about God all this time, what has it brought us except the Dark Ages? Now it's the light age. It's the Enlightenment. And light will come through the study of science. So where there was a focus on God, pre-modern Europe, modern Europe became a study of the world, the universe. Practically speaking, the universe, the focus on God was replaced by the focus on the universe. The physical universe replaced God himself. You know, that's why Nietzsche said God is dead. He wasn't saying God is dead. He's saying dead to the people. They're not focused on that anymore. Now when that's the first element of the unseen to go, Allah Azza wa Jal, from the focus of the people. When that was gone, and this is your focus, then which life would you worry about? The life that is to come in the unseen, that this God promised? Or the life you have right now? Your entire focus becomes this life. Even as something you inquire about, wonder about, think about, reflect about, you no longer reflect about an akhirah. All you reflect about is a dunya. You know, there are Muslims who think a lot about dunya. I'm not just talking about you become a worldly person. You don't even think about an akhirah because what's the point, you say? What fantasy world are you talking about? What paradise? Why would I even wonder about that? I'm a physical being, I have physical needs, and those physical needs are being provided by the physical universe. So where God is replaced by the universe, the afterlife, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى became وَالدُّنْيَا خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. The world, the afterlife, the focus on the afterlife was replaced with the focus on the life here and now. Because what the Christian faith did was, in their focus of the afterlife, they made worldly life miserable. They were killing people. The Spanish Inquisition, they were torturing, even Christians, they accused them of being Jews. This is the worst thing possible. They would accuse them of being Jews, and then they would torture them. They developed, the only thing they invented in Europe was torture devices. That's what they invented. Like machines where you could tie people up and slowly stretch them apart, where one bone would come apart at a time, like things like that. And then they would tell those people that are dying of that torture, no, I'm doing you a favor, you're going to heaven. Because you're suffering in this world, so your heaven is guaranteed. When this view developed, they're like, this belief in the akhirah, the only thing it did for the Christians is it made dunya what? Ugly, horrible. That's what it did for them. So in their mind, anybody who believes in the afterlife must want to make the world a miserable place. They must want to make the world, that second replacement happen. Now if there's, and by the way, the Christians said, you may be suffering in your body, but I'm trying to save your soul. Post-modernity, or post-revolution, the European says, what soul? I don't see a soul. I've done a scan of my body, all I see is blood and skin and bone. No CAT scan has revealed it. What are you talking about, soul? Oh, you mean my feelings and emotions? That's all neurons firing in my body. That's just chemicals. We can research those. There is no soul. This is all hocus pocus. This is old beliefs. Psychology 101. Psychology 101, they'll tell you how Christians, when they used to perform exorcisms, my professor actually had a PowerPoint slide. When they used to perform exorcisms, that was that demon has taken over your body and your soul. They would literally drill a hole in the person's skull to let the thing out. They found skulls with holes drilled in them. That's how crazy it got. So you can imagine they got an aversion to the idea of, I'm trying to help your soul. God is replaced with the universe. The afterlife is replaced with this life. The soul is replaced with what? What's all the focus now? The body. Don't take care of your soul, just take care of your body. Eat well, nutrition, work out, live well, be in comfort, be in luxury. Take care of that. That's that's a quality, a standard of living, they call it. This is all a consequence of Christian faith. This new materialism, if you want to call it materialism. Why? Because all of it has to do with the material world. The universe, this life, the body. It's all material world. This surah teaches us that the actual consequence of the Christian faith was globalized materialism. An obsession with what is here. Who cares about what's coming later? And it'll get implanted deep into the psyche of the human being. So when you talk about the akhirah, even a Muslim might think in the back of his head, yeah. I know. They'll dismiss it subconsciously. They've internalized the ideas of materialism deep inside. Save your soul. I know. I gotta save your soul. Whatever. إِلَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ. If they don't come to appreciate, they don't come to believe in this speech, meaning the Quran that will remain forever, the Quran that will outlast you. If they don't come to believe in this, asafan, out of grief, are you going to kill yourself? Sadness, concern and sadness. Asaf is actually also used for sadness in a situation in which you don't have any control. This is out of your hands. And the Prophet recognizes that the real consequences of Christian faith are out of his hands because he won't be around. Allah already guaranteed the thing that will remain standing without deviation and will hold the believers up is what? The Quran. So Allah didn't even say here, إِلَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِكَ. He said, إِلَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِي هَذَا الْحَدِيثِ يعني al-Quran, this speech. This conversation. And by the way, there's a beautiful gem in here, such a powerful gem. Allah didn't say هذا القرآن هذا الكتاب. He started الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولكن غير الأسلوب هنا قال بهذا الحديث. Hadith means speech. Quran will remain alive by means of speech. It'll have to be spoken. People will have to converse it. It'll have to become discourse. It'll have to be a conversation. When they don't believe in this speech, meaning the Prophet might even be worried in between the lines that Muslims won't speak it anymore. They won't speak the Quran anymore. Out of grief. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا. Look at how relevant this conversation is to materialism. We no doubt have made whatever is on the earth as a means of beautifying it. We've made it as a means of beautifying it. The world is beautiful. Its treasures, its riches. Who knew that small speckles of dirt, of sand, silicone, can transform the planet? Who knew that chips are going to come out of silicone? Who knew? Who knew that copper cables are going to transform how the economy functions in the globe? You know? SubhanAllah, the means by which we find beauty in the world, the devices we use, the toys we play with, right? They're all, the ingredients of all of that were already on the earth. And Allah made them as a means of beautifying. لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ. All of this to test them. أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Which of them is better in terms of action? You will notice from the beginning of this, the end of this surah, Allah keeps highlighting action. When the surah comes to an end, we'll see a conversation about action again. Get to work. Who's going to be better in terms of work? وَإِنَّا لَجَاعِلُونَ مَا عَلَيْهَا صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا. That's very powerful imagery in this ayah. We no doubt are going to transform. We're going to make. Ja'iluna is the ism. There's no doubt about it. We're going to do it. Inna is already emphasizing it. Lam adds an oath to it. No doubt about it. I swear to it. We are going to make ma alayha, whatever's on it. Whatever's on this earth. Which in the previous ayah was described as something made for the purpose of beauty. Now we're going to take whatever's on it, sa'idan. Sa'id comes from sa'ada. Sa'ada means to climb, right? وَمَن يَتَهَيَّبْ سُعُودَ الْجِبَالِ, right? But sa'ada also means, or sa'uda, of dust to gather. When something's sitting there for a long time, like a desolate town, or a piece of furniture you haven't cleaned forever, or a car that's been sitting in the garage. You go to it after 2, 3, 4 years. Is it covered in dust? Allah says whatever's on the earth will be covered in layers of dust. It's going to be dead. Covered and covered and covered in layers of dust. Juruza. Juruz literally is one of the words for qata'. What's qata'? Cut. Cut from all life. Ardul juruz, they say, a cut up dry land, barren land where nothing can grow. It'll be so dead and no vegetation, no plant, nothing will grow. The earth will be entirely done. Sa'id and Juruza. This is what's going to happen to this beautified world. This is the introduction to the surah. This is the premise under which we are going to study everything that happens in the surah. The surah is going to teach us 4 main stories. We're going to learn 4 main stories in this surah. Between some of the stories, there is again a commentary from Allah before He goes to the next story. Sometimes He does that. But the opening of the surah is really important because it sets the stage, the perspective from which you should look at all of these surahs, all of these stories. Okay? Someone who only believes in the world now and the beauty of this world should pay extra attention then to the people of the cave. What's the connection? We'll see in a bit. أَمْ حَسِبْتَ أَنَّ أَصْحَابَ الْكَهْفِ وَالرَّقِيمِ. Did you actually realize, have you ever assumed, has it ever caught your imagination that the people of the cave, the companions of the cave, وَالرَّقِيمِ, Raqim is a word close to the word marqum. Like kitabun marqum, yes? Raqama, I've told you before, raqama is to inscribe something in a way that's hard to erase. It could either be you sewed it in or stitched it in, or if it's a rock, and you see old like Roman historians, when they would document something, they would nail it in. This is also called raqam, because it's written in a way that can't be erased. It's etched in. It's carved in. Okay? Raqim, instead of using marqum, because you know how fa'il, Arabic students, you know how fa'il sometimes comes in the meaning of maf'ul, right? So raqim here is in the meaning of marqum, but the reason raqim is used is to tell you that it lasted a long, long time, because fa'il is permanent. And as the story will go on, we'll learn that the carving made, I'll tell you about that carving in a little bit, it lasted centuries. And it didn't erase the data that was on it. كَانُوا مِنْ آيَاتِنَا عَجَبًا. They used to be, meaning those people, they themselves were from our miraculous signs. أَمْ حَسِبْتَ عَجَبًا. Did you assume that was strange? Did you realize, did you ever think how strange it was? How unique it was?